I am pleased to welcome Louise Lee as our final session of Marquee. Louise helps companies and individuals increase their revenue, leadership capacity, productivity, and fulfillment by turning dysfunction into aligned achievement and empowering her clients through her company, Louise Lee Coaching and Consulting. She's known for her honest conversations, her loving disruption, and the tangible results she helps people like you get for your life and your career. Please join me in welcoming Louise Lee to our virtual stage.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jessica. I'm so excited to be here with you. And I really hope that you're enjoying this event. Bringing Women Together are doing some great stuff for our community. And they will be hopping on right at the end of today to share with you some more ways that you can stay connected with them and you can participate in what they're doing. So first of all, I want to appreciate you. It is one thing to sign up for this talk and it's another to show up for it. Most people, they don't step into realizing their potential because it feels easier, safer, and more comfortable to stay where we are. So I really acknowledge you for showing up and doing the work. Today, you'll learn some of the common mistakes that get in our way when we're trying to live our best lives and be our best selves. I am excited to give you as much as I can within the time we have today, but just know that there is so much more that I can give you than I can actually give you today during the 45 minutes we have to get you the results you want in your career and in your life. If you'd like to continue our journey together after the session today, I promise you will learn how to do that later. In the meantime, hello. If you have any questions, jot them down or add them into the chat box. Jessica has very kindly agreed to keep an eye in the chat for some questions, and I'll answer them during the end, during the Q&A. Another thing, get ready with your pen and paper if you haven't already, and open up the chat box if you haven't already. There is a wealth of knowledge in this room that we can share, and I am curious about you, so I'll be asking you to share in the chat box throughout this session today. Speaking of which, here is the first question I want you to answer in the chat. On a scale of 1 to 7, how focused do you plan to be with me today? So 1 would be completely unfocused. It's chaos. The kids are fighting. The pets are yelping. You'll just have a background noise, quite frankly, while you deal with the chaos. At 7, on the other hand, is you're bringing your full attention. You're locking the kids and the animals in the other room. But whatever it is, put it in the chat. And whatever it is, it's okay with me. Because what I ask you to do right now is make one adjustment to your environment that will help you hit the number you wrote in the chat. You might put your phone out of reach, you might close your email, you might shut your door. Whatever it is, make that one adjustment right now that will help you hit the number you wrote. I love all the numbers coming in. We've got some 7s, got some 2s, we've got some lol 4s. Love it, love it, love it, love it. So make that one adjustment right now so you can hit the number you want to hit. Here's another question I want you to answer in the chat. In a sentence, why do you want to realize your potential? Why do you want to realize your potential? Why are you here? I've got an answer, which I'll share in a second, but I'm curious to know why you want to realize your potential. It's busy in the chat box. There's going to be lots of collective wisdom, so keep an eye on the chat box as well as listening to me. But I'm seeing lots of great stuff here. Curious to see where I can go. I'll never know what I missed if I don't. To be better, for growth, become the best version I can. Inner peace. To be better, to be happy, to be better so I can be of greater service to others. Read this stuff in the chat. There is some amazing stuff happening here. What I'm really getting is you are here because you want to be better and happier, but also because of the difference it will make to others. That is incredible. How I most broadly describe why I want to realize my potential is I want to be a catalyst of change. I want people to be different. I want teams to be different. I want the world to be different. And I often think to myself, what if we could give more to the world than what we take? So the fact that you are here watching this talk right now tells me that you believe you are capable of more. But before we jump into that, it helps to know what's at stake here for you. What I mean is, what does fulfilling your potential look like for you? So I want you to think about these things right now. You can think about them, you can jot them down on your piece of paper, you can drop them in the chat, up to you. So first of all, I want you to think about where you are right now in terms of the area of your life you really want to realize your potential. So it could be your career, it could be your job, it could be your health, it could be your relationships, it could be areas with your family, other things. So think about where you are right now in your life and think of the successes you've had so far. Think of all of the great things you have achieved so far. And when you've kind of started to feel all warm and gooey and you've got that big smile as you think of all the successes you've achieved, I want you now to think of what's the biggest struggle you're facing right now, particularly in that area of your life. What's the biggest struggle? And, you know, if you are up for it, when you think of your biggest struggle, share it in the chat, because I bet you, given my experience, given the work that I've done with so many people over the years, I bet you that if you share your struggle in the chat, somebody else might say, yep, me too, or +1, or I see you. You're not alone. So what's the biggest struggle you're facing right now? And then I want you to think about, what would staying stuck at this level cost you? And I don't just mean cost you like financially. I mean emotional well-being, happiness, joy. I mean time with your family, time doing things that are important to you. What would staying stuck at this level cost you? And once you've thought about that, now I want you to think of yourself 1 year from now as you are thriving and fulfilling your potential 1 year from now, as if you're watching yourself on a movie screen. When you watch this movie of yourself 1 year from now, what do you see? And how do you feel in the movie? What do you see and how do you feel when you're thriving? And then I want you to think about, how would you feel if 1 year from now, you were in the same place as you are right now? How would you feel if 1 year from now, you were in the same place as you are right now? Nothing's changed. I'm here seeing disappointing, terrified, terrible, deflated. I'll be disappointed, bummed out, discouraged, right? So how would you feel instead when you're thriving? How would you feel instead when you're thriving? Energized, so proud of myself, marvelous, great in capital letters, proud, happy, blessed. This is amazing. So I invite you to hold what you have just created in your mind, in the movie of your mind. Hold it with you as we journey together today, okay? Because if you are committed to change, like I am committed to change, first of all, you have to understand what change is. So here we go. Michael Bungay Stanier talks about 2 fundamental types of change. And I'm going to show you my really, really fancy slides. You ready? Ready? Okay. Fancy slide number 1 coming up. 2 types of change: easy change and hard change. Easy change is when you go through a process of learning something and then doing, learning something and then doing. It's like knowing and doing, knowing and doing. It kind of looks like this, right? Easy changes, you know, and then you do. And then you learn a little bit more, and then you do. You watch a video, you listen to a podcast, you know a bit more, you do a bit more, right? And you do it enough, and you get to a place where you say, that's good enough. And you master the easy change all the time. In fact, in the chat box now, share an easy change that you've recently made. It could be something you've just started to learn. Maybe it's a new tool you picked up, or a new habit that you're putting into place. Something where you know a bit, you do a bit, you know a bit, you do a bit. So share in the chat right now an easy change that you recently made. Right, a lot of it is around actually drinking more water, meal prep, eating, becoming vegetarian, getting up earlier, getting to bed earlier. So I'm seeing a lot about what we eat, how we eat, when we go to sleep, a lot around our health and self-care, reading more, dealing with my children. I love it, dealing with my children. Okay, great. So, you know, when they say change is hard, apparently that's not true. Some of these changes you've all written here are things that you have started doing recently, and it's been relatively okay, right? Okay. So that's easy change. And it sounds as though you know how to do easy change. Then there's hard change. And we have all faced the frustration of hard change, where you know where you want to get to, you know what it looks like, and yet for some reason, you don't seem to be able to get your head around what you need to do to master it. Okay. So for easy change, remember, it was about know and do and know and do. For hard change, it's a little bit different. For hard change, it's a change of being, which feeds into the doing. So it looks like this. You change your being, and then you do something from your new state of being. And then you shift your being again, and then you do something from that new state of being. So it's less about knowledge. It's more about the wiring of who you are. Because trying to add more knowledge to solve a hard problem almost never works. In the chat, I want you to share a hard challenge or a hard change challenge that's in your life right now, something that you are like banging your head against right now. So share a hard change challenge that's in your life right now in the chat, and let's see what you are dealing with. Fitness goal, I love it. Career change, managing reactions, right? Dealing with it differently when you receive a bad reaction, I love it. Constant fitness, limiting chocolate intake, oh, I feel you. Learning how to trade stocks, getting your butt off the couch, being physical, balancing family and career. Right. So you get this, right? So understanding this difference between easy change and hard change is a fundamental way of thinking. Another way to look at it is like this. Easy change is like downloading an app to your phone, right? It's a useful piece of content and you are adding to what's already there. Hard change, on the other hand, think of it like this. It's an upgrade to your operating system. It's an upgrade to your OS. You are literally changing what is there, okay? Because I bet right now, it's like you've done all the easy changes. You've got all the apps and none of them are helping anymore, right? If you feel like that, let me know in the chat. You've got all the apps, you've got all the tools, you've got all the knowledge, and yet none of it seems to be doing anything, right? And that's because of this. Yes, switching to iOS or Android, right? Yes, exactly. But that's because of this. Easy change, the way to think of it is this. Easy change is you plus. Whereas hard change is you version 2.0. Okay. So hard change is transformative. We're talking about leveling up. We're talking about transforming from your present you to your future you. We're tackling your future you. So if you're dealing with hard change, remember, more information, it doesn't help and it doesn't work. So if you feel tempted to get more information or find that perfect book or that one video, that one thing, it doesn't work and it will just become another failed attempt to try and crack this process. So what I'm really teaching you right here is understanding that difference between easy change and hard change, because this might transform the way you approach your own growth and your development. So remember, when it comes to hard change, it is a change in being, right? You're creating a new identity for yourself. So here's my belief about realizing and fulfilling your potential. For most of us, realizing our potential is a hard change, which is why I want to share with you this distinction right now. Okay, so remember how hard change is about changing in being. Well, there are two ways of being in the world that I want to share with you today. And, you know, if there's one big thing you take away from today, I want this to be it. Apart from the easy change, hard change, that was pretty useful. But there are two ways of being in the world. There are creators and there are reactors. There are creators and there are reactors. Okay, let's see if you identify with any of this, okay? Creators, they create their day based on an irresistible, compelling future, right? They're super excited. Reactors are reacting to the opinions of others all day. Creators are found often in the middle of a bold creative move, right? You reach out to them, what are you up to? They're like, oh, I'm in the middle of this, launching this new thing, right? Reactors are on the phone reporting another travesty they've suffered. God damn it. Creators create their future by what they do today. Reactors, on the other hand, are obsessed by talking about their very immediate, very unfortunate past. And the best future a reactor ever produced was simply a bandaged up version of their past. And if you've ever felt like sometimes your past seems to keep coming back, drop me a hell's yes in the chat. Because for reactors, a fresh new future is never created. For them, life is always unfair. And I know this because I was one of them. I was working in a job that I hated, on a career path that I didn't like. But you know what? It gave me what I thought I wanted, which was money, predictability, and success in the eyes of my parents. I love you, mum and dad, but it's true. I started eating too much. I started drinking too much. I was arguing with my partner all the time. And I was just reacting to everything he was doing and everyone else was doing, quite frankly. There was one comment about, reactions, right? And I kept searching for things to fill this void that I felt. I felt this gap. If any of you feel like there's something missing in your life, but you don't know what it is, let me know in the chat, because I felt that too. So I filled it, and I filled it with things like new jobs, promotions that I wasn't excited about. I bought things I didn't want or need. I acted out and I hurt people around me. It was like a life of fear and more fear. And over time, what happened was that I ended up just feeling more and more numb about it and worried, which is, I guess, better than numb, because when you're numb, you're not really feeling anything. But I really hit like a rock bottom one day. And then I woke up and then I realized that what I was doing just wasn't working. I was searching everywhere for the answer. And I didn't want to continue doing that because it wasn't working. So I needed a different angle. And I also knew that I couldn't do it alone. So that's when I started my own personal journey of learning how to live freely and live powerfully and live a life I loved. And through the support of people around me, including mentors and coaches and friends, I dug a lot deeper and I changed my self-concept. I changed my identity, my being. Because who you are to you drives what you do throughout the day. That's the thing about our brains. We rarely do what we can't picture ourselves doing. We only do what we can instantaneously picture ourselves being able to do. So if you want to do bigger and better things with your life, you want to start with your self-concept and how you see yourself. You need to enlarge it if you want to enlarge the results you're getting in the world. Okay, so start thinking in terms of creating instead of reacting. Creating instead of reacting. Okay, so I promised you that today you will learn some common mistakes that we make. So let's look at some of these mistakes that might be getting in your way. Okay, mistake number one. Comparison. Okay, let me tell you about Angela. Angela has just been promoted into a new job. And it's her first time in a director level role. And she is smart. She's whippet smart. She's excited and she's nervous. And she wants to prove herself to those around her. But because this is her first time as a director, she finds herself looking at all the other directors in the company to see what they're up to, right? But soon she becomes fixated on what those directors and their departments are doing. She sees them come up with these great initiatives and she sees them present them to the executive team. She sees them succeeding. And then when she looks at her own department, she sees her department isn't. So Angela starts to berate herself for not having come up with those ideas. I remember she said to me, why am I not coming up with ideas, Louise? I used to be so good. I used to be so creative. Why can't I come up with these ideas? She spends all of her time and energy comparing herself to those other directors. And yet she was also constantly looking for ways to impress her boss and prove she was worth promoting. But the more she compares herself with others, the more she actually believed that she didn't belong. in this special club of directors who apparently come up with really great ideas and make a big difference. Now she's worried she's going to be found out and exposed at any time. She feels anxious, she feels stressed, and she's worried that she actually has lost her spark, which she once had. It is classic imposter syndrome. If you see yourself in any of this, share in the chat. And I love what somebody wrote here. I'm not going to say your name because we're being recorded. But comparison is the thief of joy. Yes, exactly. So through our coaching work together, Angela realized how her constant comparing with others was not only making her feel awful about herself, but it was fueling those unhelpful, negative, and, as we found out, untrue stories that she had about herself. And to make it worse, comparing herself to others was distracting her from doing the great work she was promoted for in the first place. So even though, and she did say this, because when I asked her about comparing herself, she said, well, you know, Louise, sometimes I find comparing myself can be good, right? It motivates me in a negative way, she said. So even though she said that comparing herself to others motivated her in a negative way, doing that was actually preventing her from getting the very thing she wanted. Once we got clear about what was driving this behavior, we changed it. And she changed her self-concept. She changed the way she saw herself. We found ways for her to feel great about herself instead of feeling awful, and also to feel incredibly motivated. And then something really magical happened. Once she got this shift, because it starts here, once she got the shift, ideas started raining down on her. Because when you change the things you look at, sorry, let me say that again. When you change how you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change how you look at things, the things you look at change. You could see her eyes light up. She was creating instead of reacting. All of a sudden, she was inspired and she got her spark back. So comparing ourselves to others actually allows them to drive our behavior, right? It's exhausting and it's frustrating. And to make matters worse, when we compare ourselves to others, we are basically allowing our sense of self-worth to be at the mercy of things beyond our control. And let me tell you this, when your self-worth is dependent on external things, you are in deep trouble, my friend. You're in deep trouble. You can get out of it for sure, and I'm testament to that. But if your self-worth is dependent on external things, you're in deep trouble. If you agree with that, let me know in the chat. Somebody wrote, right? I relate to the story too much. Exactly. Oh, yeah. You can't be inspired when you're coming from a place of diminished self-worth. You just can't. But by having the courage to explore who you truly are, and then letting go of what no longer serves you, you're left with your true self, which I think is what I'm hearing is what you really want. I mean, there is one thing I know that you are better at than other people, and that's being you. I should put that on a Hallmark card. It's a bit cheesy, isn't it? But it's true. This is the only game you can really win. So make sure you play your own game, okay? So I want you to share in the chat right now. What new identity will you give yourself when it comes to comparison or comparing? And what is one thing you'll do differently as part of this new identity? So share in the chat right now. The new identity you'll give yourself when it comes to comparing yourself either to others or even to previous versions of yourself. And what is one thing you will do differently as part of this new identity? Let's see what we got. Got lots of agreed 100%. We've got 1,000% here, 1,000% agreement. That's a lot of agreement. Oh, I love it. Somebody wrote here in the chat, my new identity and what I'll do differently. I'm going to embrace my weird. I love that. I love that. Wherever I am at in my career is exactly where I need to be. Yes, yes. What you are saying is you are accepting what is. What's so? That's wonderful. Stop comparing how quickly others move up the ladder in comparison to me. Yes. Sing wherever and whenever I want. Be confident in my decision. Stop apologizing. Yes. Get rid of that apologizing addiction. Yes. Or addiction to apologizing. Get rid of it. Focus on myself. Be me. Visualize me and focus me. I love it. Thank you for sharing. Keep sharing in the chat. There's a lot of great stuff there. Keep your eye on the chat as well for that collective wisdom we have in the room today. This is amazing. Amazing. Okay. Let's talk about mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 is people pleasing. Oh, yeah. See if you recognize yourself in Margaret's story and share in the chat if you do. Okay, so this is Margaret. Margaret was getting more and more resentful of her parents. They were getting older, as people have this habit of doing, and they were always asking her to do things for her. It could be running errands, but they also asked her to visit them every weekend. And Margaret felt as though she always had to say yes to them because, after all, they were her parents. And Margaret had 2 siblings, and her 2 siblings seemed to do no wrong in her parents' eyes. So Margaret felt that extra pressure to keep saying yes to her mum and her dad. On top of that, Margaret was also busy at work trying to manage some really difficult clients. She was struggling particularly with actually speaking up for her team, and she was always trying to bend over backwards to make her client happy. Oh, that's the thing with some of these behaviors that we're talking about today. It's never just in one area of your life, is it? If you find it hard to say no, sometimes share it with me in the chat. I love somebody has written here, guilty as charged. Somebody else has written, I can already agree, and I haven't even heard the story yet. Here we go. But it wasn't just Margaret who was becoming unhappy and dissatisfied. She was spending less and less time at home with her family, and she wasn't taking care of herself. She was tired, and that meant she was cranky all the time, yelling at her husband, yelling at her child, and she hated herself for it. And her husband was miserable with it all, and their daughter started acting out in response. Being in that constant state of reacting, it left Margaret with no resources to create her life anymore. And because she'd been in the habit of behaving like this for so many years, especially around her parents, she wasn't even aware what was driving it. When you get caught up trying to please other people, you get caught up in guessing how they want you to be, which is, quite frankly, draining and disheartening. If you have ever felt that, let me know in the chat. Right? When you get caught up trying to guess how other people want you to be, how can you, be the best for them and not make them upset or anything like that, right? It's draining and it's disheartening. Yes, can't agree more. Yes, because people pleasing, it erodes your sense of integrity. You start feeling bad about yourself, like Margaret did. And if you're always saying yes to others, you're giving up your time and your energy to spend on things that matter to you. You're not spending it on you. You're spending it on others in things that don't matter to you. So when you shift your focal point from what's happening out there to what's happening in here, this is how you get your power back. This is how you start to change things. And so that's what we did through our work together. It turned out that Margaret had this unconscious need to prove to her parents that she was just as good, if not better, than her siblings. And it was driving her to constantly say yes to her parents when she wanted to say no. So once we sorted that out and a few other things out, we created stronger boundaries and we brought her standards up. So she started to lovingly push back against her parents, and at work, she started advocating for her team with a client. As it turns out, her parents were okay with it, and Margaret is much happier. And actually, so are her husband, her client, and her team. This is what I'm talking about. The ripple effect is real. Margaret was creating instead of reacting. So remember that when you try to please everyone, you're not pleasing anyone. You've probably heard of that saying, right? And this includes the ability to say no. In fact, I do a whole other session and workshop on just saying no. When you pay attention to what you've got going on around your thoughts, your beliefs, and your words, you can get clear on what's really stopping you from saying no. And that awareness gives you choice. That awareness of what's going on for you gives you choice. And that's what we created for Margaret. Choice. She made a choice from a new version of herself. So when you feel that familiar tension between saying yes, but wanting to say no, I invite you to pause for a moment. Pause for a moment and notice what's going on underneath for you. It could be something like, oh, there I go again, wanting to say yes right now because I'm scared of getting fired. Okay, so whatever it is for you, just pause and notice what is driving you in that moment to say yes when you really want to say no. Because by pausing before you speak, you respond instead of react. You respond instead of react. So I want you to share in the chat about this section about people pleasing. What new identity will you give yourself when it comes to people pleasing? And what's one thing you'll do differently as part of this new identity? So hard to do that pause. I get you. I get you. It is a practice for sure, because you're not used to doing it, right? It's like trying to brush your teeth with the other hand. I tried that this morning. It was a disaster. But it's like trying to do something you've never done before. It's kind of weird and awkward, and you feel clumsy and you feel goofy. It is hard to begin with, but the more you do it, the more it will become second nature to you. Okay, so I'm seeing lots of great stuff in the chat. Me pleasing, me first. I love it. You're deprogramming. Yes, that is deprogramming. Great share here. I realize how I mostly react. Somebody wrote here. That is incredible sharing. And I love the level of vulnerability and openness we're having in the chat today. This is so great. Set boundaries and be confident in your choices. Set reasonable expectations. Yes, I have to remember no rush to answer. Absolutely. There is no rush ever to answer the other person. This is so great. Keep it coming. Keep your insights coming. Keep sharing. Okay, let's move on to mistake number 3. Mistake number 3 is, yes, perfection and control. Perfection and control. Sounds like a tagline for a hair product, doesn't it? It's like perfection and control, right? Yeah, anyway. So let's meet Jordan, and share in the chat if you recognize yourself in any of this, okay? Jordan was sinking under the weight of all of his work problems. He was spending hours looking for ways to solve them, but the kicker is that he never really actually followed through with any of the potential solutions he found. See if you recognize yourself in that. So he would keep himself busy looking for solutions instead of creating them. He was looking for solutions instead of creating them. And he was stuck in that research and strategy phase and only focusing on things that he knew he was good at, right? So he was so busy always researching that he never had to actually do anything. So he started to feel so overwhelmed with what was on his plate because things started to pile up and it was paralyzing him. Things were not getting done. People started to get frustrated with him. And here's the thing with Jordan's case. Like you, I'm guessing, Jordan is smart and he's capable, just like you. But one of his blind spots that he discovered through the work that we did together through coaching was believing that asking for help was a sign of weakness. If you find it hard to ask for help, share in the chats. I know Jordan's not the only one, and I know I have definitely felt that too, right? Oh yes, oh dear, you see me. I do, my dear, I do see you. So Jordan thought that he had to know all the answers all the time. And if he didn't, he'd be a failure, right? He'd be sacked. He was so afraid of looking like a failure that not only did he not ask for help, but he also did not try things he thought he might not be good at for fear of failing at them. It's classic perfection and control. He also assumed that when I challenged him about asking for help, this is what I do as a coach, I would challenge you, right? He said, well, Louise, everyone else is so busy. They're going to be too busy. They're not going to want to help me. They've got their own problems. So that even when he was tempted to ask for help, he didn't bother. He basically said no for them. He didn't even ask them. So one thing that I've learned as a coach, as a leader, as a human, is that people contribute. And I'm seeing that right now in the chat, right? You are contributing. Not only that, but people like to contribute, right? You're all doing it. By not asking someone for help when you need it, you are denying them the opportunity to contribute to your life. I'm going to say that again. This really rocked my world when I got it. By not asking for help when you need it, you are denying someone the opportunity to make a difference to you, to contribute to your life. Not to mention, you're also denying yourself new ideas, better solutions, more effectiveness, greater efficiency, right? So once Jordan realized that contradictory nature of his thinking and he shifted his idea of himself and other people, he started asking for help. And you know what happens now, right? Not only did his problems start getting resolved much quicker, but Jordan's circle of contribution grew. His circle of contribution grew more than twice over. And another thing is, when he spoke to people that had helped him, when he spoke to them about it, those people said that they liked helping him. It made them feel good. And there's more. Some of those people introduced Jordan to other people, to new contacts. So it became a double win-win. The first win, because the person who Jordan asked initially was able to help Jordan. And the second win, because the person Jordan asked was able to then help another contact by connecting them with Jordan. When you collaborate with others, you set yourself up as the person people want to work with. And also, you build your credibility and your influence. So if credibility, influence is something you want to hone and get better at, think about that, right? When you collaborate with others, you set yourself up as the person people want to work with, and you build your credibility and your influence. Because not only will you help others in ways that surprise you, but you also become more productive, more profitable, and your life works more effectively. I mean, it is win, 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 ding, 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 triple win, right? I also have a personal story about perfection and control. Every time I say perfection and control, I want to do something with my hair. Anyway, how many of you wait until you feel like doing something before you do it? Okay. Here's 3A, procrastination. If you procrastinate ever or over certain things, share in the chat, right? And if you want to, don't just share that you procrastinate, share what you procrastinate over. Because one of the things is when we blast out those fears into the great wide open, they lose their power over us. Okay. So for me, over a year ago, I had this idea of starting a coaching and mastermind group for women in leadership positions who feel isolated and they want to meet and connect with other women leaders to take their leadership skills to the next level and to also find more fulfillment at work, right? So I had this great idea, but I was worried that no one would want to be part of it and no one would want to pay for it. And you know what? I was worried that it wouldn't be perfect. So what did I do? Nothing. I didn't do anything with it. I just let the idea come and then go. And then I got a phone call. Someone was asking me if I knew of a good leadership group for women. I swear to God, universe. I mean, if it's not teaching me a lesson, I don't know what is. Somebody literally phoned me and said, Louise, do you know of a good leadership group for women? She said she wanted the support and advice of other women leaders and a safe space to share and to learn. What she was asking for was exactly what I had thought of creating. And I knew there and then on the phone that I had a choice. It was one of those like sliding doors moments. Have you seen that film, Sliding Doors, with Gwyneth Paltrow? If you haven't seen it, watch it because you'll understand the metaphor. It's quite powerful. And so I thought to myself, okay, this is it. Why don't I start one? So before I could react to that unhelpful thinking, because I have it just the same as you, I just blurted out to her over the phone that I was thinking of starting one. I created a new possibility of something from nothing. And then after I said that out loud, all I could hear was not her reaction. All I could hear was my own voice in my own head going, what? Are you crazy? Who are you to start a leadership group for women, Louise? So instead of listening to that, I asked this person over the phone what they were looking for. Because this is another trick that I want to share with you. It's not about me. What I wanted to do was serve her. It was about serving her and women like her and women like you. So she told me, what she was looking for. And then she asked me, she was starting to get excited. So she asked me, when will you have the group up and running? I panicked. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm even sweating just telling you this. Jesus Christ, this happened a while ago. I panicked and I had another decisive moment. I was like, okay, do I back out and give a vague no answer? You know the ones I mean, the no answer. Yeah. Do I back out and give a vague no answer, or do I follow through and actually make a commitment? And in that moment, what really helped me was I remembered my values. Integrity is one of my core values. And as a result, I don't give my word lightly. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I will do it. And I know that once I give my word to someone, I would follow through. So I gave her my word. I gave her a date. And as it turned out, because I gave her my date, I got on it. It was like a little fire under my ass. Oh, I hope I'm allowed to say that word. Anyway, I did. And as it turned out, she signed up for my first ever women's leadership circle. And so did other women. In fact, it sold out in its first run. And it got rave reviews. Those people shared it with their friends and colleagues. And then those people then joined the next one. Remember what I said about win, 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 win for everyone. And I've now run this women's leadership circle multiple times, and they've all sold out. And every person has shared how much value they got out of it and the difference it's made. I'm running one right now. And to think that I almost didn't do it because I didn't think I knew what I was doing. Holy moly. So our word is the most powerful thing that we have. And I'm curious, so I want you to share this in the chat. What is one thing you're worried about giving your word to right now that you know is actually something that's important to you? Okay, so let's share that in the chat. What's one thing you're worried about giving your word to right now? You're hesitating giving your word to right now that you actually know is something that's important to you. Maybe it's something you know that will take you to the next level and get you where you want to get to. I love this, going back to school, starting my own business, completing my performance management plan. And I love this comment here as well. What if I can't make it? Yes, because you're worried sometimes about not only making the wrong choice or that it won't work, or maybe it's even worse. Maybe you're worried it will work, but that you won't do what's necessary and follow through because of what's happened in the past. Well, I'm here to tell you, the past counts for nothing. Your word counts for everything. When you honor your word and you keep your word, and there's a difference. I don't have time to go into that today, but I can tell you about that another time. When you honor your word and you keep your word, magic happens. You build trust in yourself and you build confidence in yourself. You trust in your ability to follow through and do what you say you're going to do. And other people notice that. You build your credibility and influence. Again, another way to build your credibility and influence. When you trust in yourself, other people trust in you too. You become a role model. And when you become a role model, you help yourself and others grow into the high performer you've always wanted to be. And the most important thing is that you now have the power of your word back, and it means something, and that's powerful, right? There's another common thing around perfection and control, and that's this 3C, needing to be right. Oh my God. I'm laughing at myself because, oh my God, this is so me. Needing to be right, okay? If you have an unconscious need to be right, which is a personal challenge, and when I say personal, I don't just mean my challenge. I mean, it's a personal one, right? The blind spot in your professional world is that you're making other people wrong, right? If you recognize that need to be right, share in the chat, okay? Don't leave me hanging on this one, my friends. I'm pretty sure some of you may feel this too. But if you recognize that need, share in the chat. Yes, 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 I'm hearing that. And that's what happened with Brian. When he became aware through our sessions of his need to be right, he got quite uncomfortable because he started to see the impact of it. He was trying to get his need to be right met on the back of his team. And his team, they really didn't like that. And of course, it wasn't just at work. When we dug a little bit deeper, his need to be right was affecting his relationship with his partner in ways he wasn't even conscious of before we dug that deeper. And when Brian realized the kind of leader, and quite frankly, the kind of spouse he really wanted to be, he saw that it wasn't as important to be right as it was to make the team and his partner feel safe and to feel heard. So he shifted that need and he became more open to other people and their thoughts, which made him a better leader and a better partner. He was creating instead of reacting. So I want you to share in the chat, what new identity will you give yourself when it comes to perfection and control? And what is one thing you'll do differently as part of this new identity when it comes to perfection and control? All right, I'm seeing in the chat lots of things like, yep, this is me. Yep, I relate to the need to be right. Guilty, guilty. Yes, me. So share, what new identity will you give yourself when it comes to perfection and control? I love it. Somebody wrote here, start before I'm ready. Yes, start before you're ready. Because the trick is you may never feel ready. So just start anyway, right? Be vulnerable. Completion is better than perfection. Yes. Never let perfection get in the way of being done. Let go and trust. I love it. Embrace mistakes. They only make you human. That is so true. I love that. That was beautiful. Let go of the fear of being wrong. Yes. Be okay with not knowing the answer. Yes. Stop doing it all by myself. Yes. This is amazing in the chat. Oh, I love you. So your level of effectiveness and accomplishments in your life is determined by your level of leadership. And when I say leadership, I don't just mean like in the professional sense, but personally too. Because great leadership has this crazy multiplying effect on your success. When you raise your leadership ability, you increase your overall effectiveness without increasing your workload. I think those are probably the magic words you wanted to hear today, right? How to achieve more without having to do more. Leadership is not the same as management or entrepreneurship or knowledge or position, right? And to become a better leader, you could get training where someone tells you best practices of how to be a great leader. And remember, more information can work really well for easy changes, right? Remember what we said earlier about easy changes, right? You know you do, and then you know, and then you do. But if you believe that this next level of realizing your potential is actually a hard change, you need to change your being. You need to explore what's going on deeper, under the bonnet or under the hood, I think we say over here. You need to explore your belief systems, your needs, your values, your boundaries, your standards, things that are what I call your personal operating system. You know, your personal operating system is that thing that runs in the back of your brain, like the OS on the phone. We're talking about OSs again, iOS versus Android. You don't necessarily see it, but it's there and it impacts everything, which means that you can only develop as a leader as far as you can develop as a person. And because you don't see the nitty-gritty of your personal operating system a lot of the time, you're going to need support to see it, just like Angela and Margaret and Jordan and Brian, right? These areas that we've talked about today, comparison, perfection and control, people-pleasing, they aren't the only ones. They aren't the only areas where we sometimes unconsciously hold ourselves back. I'll briefly mention a few more very quickly. I'm conscious of the time. And if you recognize yourself in any of these ones I'm about to rattle off, let me know in the chat, okay? So there's not being able to make decisions or good decisions. There's being attached to a certain outcome. There's carrying old messages about yourself and the way the world works. There's taking things personally. There's wanting things to be different from what is. Boundaries, there's not setting and reinforcing healthy boundaries. There's living in the past or living in the future, not in the present. Do any of them sound familiar to you? These are all areas where we might be operating from those thoughts, beliefs, and needs that we're not even aware of, which are very personal to us, right? They affect our ability to fulfill our potential in every area of our life. It's kind of like what that writer Anais Nin said. She said, we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. So I want you to share in the chat right now. Answer this question. What is in your life that you know needs to be addressed so you fulfill your potential? Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your relationships or a particular relationship. Maybe it's your confidence in yourself, your self-esteem or your self-worth. What is in your life that you know needs to be addressed so you fulfill your potential? And now I want you to answer in the chat, what is it costing you to keep putting it off? because what got you here won't get you there, because we all have blind spots, which by the very nature we can't see by ourselves. Now, Einstein said, you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. You can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. You need to raise your level of awareness. And we need others to support us in discovering, exploring, examining, all of those. So what I've learned about myself is that for me, having a coach, my professional success has grown as I've grown. And not just my professional success, my health, my well-being, my relationships, my whole outlook on life. Just before this session, I had a session with my coach. I speak to him every week, and we were just looking at the growth that I've had. It's incredible. Every area of my life has grown as I've grown. And it's with the personal development work that I keep choosing to do, which keeps me in my professional arena, and it helps me in my professional arena. And it's why I have a coach and work with them every week. So if you want your success and potential to grow and you think it has nothing to do with you personally, it's time to think differently. Okay. So earlier, I invited you to take stock of what your biggest struggle is right now, right? And what staying stuck at this level would cost you. And then you imagined yourself a year from now thriving, and how you would feel if a year from now you were actually in the same place as you are right now. Okay. As they say, I can't remember who said this, maybe Peter Drucker, but the best way to predict your future is to create it. So answer this in the chat. What will you create today? And what support do you need to make it happen? What will you create today? And what support do you need to make it happen? There has been some amazing, I keep looking down because I'm looking at the chat. There has been some amazing wisdom in the chat today. And I appreciate you sharing and learning, not just from me, but also from each other. I love this. I'll create the opportunity to go back to school. Yes. So let me ask you this. This will be the last question, I promise. We've covered a lot in the 45 minutes, 50 minutes or so we've been talking. Thank you for sticking with me. I hope it felt fast and fun and spacious, and yet we also covered a lot, which is my goal. If you could pick one thing that's been most useful and powerful for you, what is the one thing that's been most valuable for you? Please share that in the chat. I would love to hear what you took away, what you really liked, what was useful, what was valuable for you. Just share it in there. And that's where I want to leave it today. And I'll hand it over to Q&A in a second, but a few things. If you want to, first of all, I should say before I do that, I want to show some love to the Bringing Women Together team, the whole team who are here. They are really amazing, and you're going to hear from them in a minute. What they're doing is so important for the world, and I think you'll be super excited with what they have to share with you later on today. If you want to connect with me on social, I'm not on there very much, I have to admit, but this is me. So I've got Instagram, Facebook is the same handle, Twitter, I never tweet, but follow me if you want to. Twitter is this one, and then LinkedIn, you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well, if you just find Louise Lee. Actually, a better place to find me is on my mailing list at louiselee.com. Here's my website, louiselee.com. It's where I share my insights, my tips, my tricks. Some of them will strike a chord with you, some might not. But I share stuff in those emails that I just don't share anywhere else or with anyone else. So if you want to receive those for free, go to louiselee.com and sign up for my emails. And I've shared a few client stories with you today, and I changed all their names, so don't worry. And if you want more of those, check out the success stories on louiselee.com. Some of them are really quite amazing. They're wonderful people. And I encourage you to find the support, the right support for you, so that you can realize your potential and really flourish, because that won't just impact you, it will impact those around you in ways that you never thought possible. Remember the win-win-win-win-win card? Right, win-win-win card. When you look after yourself, other people get to win. So this is my vision, and I am passionate about supporting you in creating this for yourself. So if you're interested in seeing how coaching with me can enhance your performance, like it did with those people that I shared with you today, I offer a complimentary coaching session for you to experience what coaching with me is like and whether it's the right fit for you. It's at no risk to you. Okay, we're not even going to talk about continuing to work together unless it's the right fit for both of us. I am interviewing you as just as much as you're interviewing me. I'm just teasing, not really. But if you are interested in getting coaching and about what it might do for you and for your life, ask yourself, what might I gain if I have this call with Louise? And what won't I get if I don't have this call with Louise? So if you'd like to set up the session, it's easy. Just send me an email. This is my email. It's on my website, but it's also here, Louise Lee at fastmail.fm. I got in with a trendy fast mail like back in the early 2000s. But anyway, there you go. Louise Lee at fastmail.fm. As the saying goes about timing, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is right now. So you can choose to be the same person you were at the beginning of this talk and not invest in yourself and your future, or you can take a leap of faith, right? If you change nothing, nothing changes. So try something new. Go and create a positive change that will not only change your life, but it would change other people's lives too. And I'm so excited for you. So please share what you learned today with others. The more you share, the more it actually cements in your brain too. Your potential is waiting for you. Thank you so much.